You're about to listen to an archived episode of The Night Shift with Zeno Horoman. This is brought to you commercial-free by the Surfcast Podcast. If you're interested in more historical, educational, and entertaining surf fishing content, check out weekly episodes of the Surfcast Podcast available today on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and anywhere else you get your podcasts, including www.surfcastpodcast.com.
Today I have a special guest, Bill Wetzel, and we're going to keep this really light because Bill was already a guest on our program with Tommy and Dennis, and now he's with me, and I hope many more times. So just welcome him here. He doesn't even have to say hi because we all know he's here. Once you hear him, you'll know he's here.
Thank you,
Hi,
Zeno.
Bill.
Thanks for having me, my friend.
All right, listen, this is just going to be a chill episode. We're not going to get too stressed over here.
Right.
I want to talk to you about the fishing in Montauk. Since you're there, you call it your office, but you are one of the rare guys who actually loves fishing the summer. And I understand that the bite used to be extraordinary and still is in some years. And I know you miss it and I know you love it. So let's just go over some of the things. First of all, tell me, why do you love it so much? Most people, summertime, they used to say, well, I take the summer off and waiting for the fall. Not you.
Well, think about it, man. I mean, that's where the resident fish are. I mean, when you're talking about the migration, and then you're talking about the resident fish. The migration is basically, and most of the fish in Montauk, by the way, are from the Chesapeake. So, from what I read, so I would agree with that because there's a period of time we were getting a lot of fish with mycobacteriosis. I hope I said that right, but that's kind of gone. But the migration takes place from May. And actually, April really starts. April, May, they're still migrating. June, they start to take up residence. You'll get more consistent bites. You'll start to see patterns. And then by July, it used to be especially August, but things have changed, and maybe we can get into that a little bit. July and August, you start to get those resident fish. And with those resident fish come patterns. And that's what I like the most about it. I like to try to find a pattern, which is very difficult to find, by the way. But yeah, I try to find a pattern. And then,
but to be fair, when you did find them, they just work like clockwork.
Yeah, at times. It's harder these days with the fishery the way it is,
right?
With less fish,
right?
Back, 15 years ago, even it was more consistent. There was a time, before I had kids and got married and all that, I would walk the entire south side and the entire north side. Well, I drive most of the north side, and I had a 7-foot little snapper rod, and I would just look for snappers the whole day. And I would, I had the snapper rig, with the little popper and the snapper. I would just take a walk in my sneakers and plug for snappers. Where are they? Where are they? Through the month of August, the beginning of August. Where are they? Where are they? And I established where the snappers are. And my theory was, if I can find the snappers in the daytime, hopefully they'll be in that area at night. And that's where I'm going to fish. And that's where I'm going to probably take my charters as well. I mean, a lot of time goes in it, into like fishing that for bigger fish, because that's what you're fishing for. I like to fish for bigger fish those months. So, if you do that, a hell of a lot of time goes in it. Now, I just go by my logs and by my knowledge of the past, and I don't do that snapper walk anymore. But I used to do it every year.
You remember a few years ago, there was that ridiculous bite on sand. It actually went on for a few seasons. Toad got on it. There was a tin.
Toad.
Willie. Yeah, everybody. More or less, if you can cast a panzer popper a mile or a tin, you were into some good fish. Do you remember that bite? What about that bite was different than a normal summer bite?
Well, that bite was in July, if you recall. It was
yes.
it was not August. It was July.
Right.
Also, it was not. I mean, there was fish at night, but there was also fish in the day. Sometimes in the middle of the day, and sometimes in the morning. I personally never got on that bite because the fish were there or they were not there. We had on those bars. Remember how it set up those years? That was from Zeno's talking about. It was basically from like the Yellow Motel down to a place they call the Rock Pile back then.
Yeah, the towards Gardens.
That whole area had fish, and it was a lot of pencil poppers. Toad was using the tins at night even, and some nights were a bust, and some nights and days were just phenomenal. And I think the primary bait was not only bunker, there was shad around then. There was a lot of shad, and do we see those shad in the middle of August anymore, or middle of July? I think sometimes, but now I think the primary bait has changed. Now I think the primary bait's bunker, and since the schools have gotten smaller, if you look at it, the most of the fish are basically from the lighthouse for the boats in July, from the lighthouse to Browns or Kings, right in that area. Like I fish there at night and there's nobody there, especially in the beginning of July. I mean, there's absolutely nobody there, and you'll see the boats, and sometimes they come in close, and then they start getting closer and closer and closer. And, you can get a really good bite in July now. And that's hopefully what I'm looking for this year, and August too. But July is becoming, more consistent than August, to tell you the truth.
Well, I just wanted to bring that up and I have a selfish reason for that, because I remember that bite well. First of all, we were all running it up and down the damn place most of that summer, and a lot of guys were on it. And the daytime bite was better than a nighttime bite, and a nighttime bite was mostly a bait bite, which, as you know, a lot of guys in Montauk won't touch bait. However, that was the year, if you remember, I think Mike Milan and a few other guys were fishing bait, and they did well. But here's my story about that. I think that's the year I had cyst operation on my back. Actually, it was on my ass. And I had to go with Alberto.
You had a cyst on your ass, Anna?
Yeah, well, kind of.
I had a cyst on my ass, too. Don't worry about it.
It was on the tailbone, actually.
Yeah, me too. I had the same thing.
Right. And I had that cut off. And then Alberto was like, we're going to Montauk. The bite is on, the bite that we're speaking of. And I drove to Alberto, who lived at the time, I believe, in Lindenhurst. And I get in front of his house, and I'm like in pain. I'm just hoping to like sit on the side, because I know it's a long ride in Montauk, and I have stitches, and I'm bleeding. And he's like, dude, I haven't slept in like 6 days. You know how Alberto is. Like, he's been fishing nonstop. He's like, you got to drive. So I drove in pain for like 3 hours to Montauk, or in tears, all right? We get there. We get flat tire. Oh. Okay, we're not even on the sand. We got a flat tire. We're not. Now, this is the truck. I just bought the truck, okay? I don't know anything about this truck. It's dark. Alberto's getting antsy. He's going to miss the freaking tide. I'm under the truck trying to get the butterfly clamp off because my truck's underneath, but I don't know how to get it off. So I'm chiseling it with a hammer, and the thing keeps spinning for half an hour. I'm bleeding out of my ass.
Oh, my God.
And Alberto's there with a flashlight going, what are you doing? I'm like, dude. Eventually we figure out, you stick that thing in the back, and you lower you crank the tire down, we change the tire, we get on the sand. Now we get on the sand, right? Now that particular rock pile, as you remember, that Montauk's all sandy beaches on that side, right? And Alberto is like, bring bank sinkers. And I was like, why would I bring bank sinkers to fish sand? You know what I'm saying? Like, we're going to fish
not all
bait.
Sand there.
Well, I didn't know. Right? Listen, I throw a chunk there, and within 10 seconds, I get a fish on, and I'm hang up. I'm hang up in the rocks, and I'm going. I can't believe this. Anyway, the point of the story was I got a bunch of fish, 18 to 20 pounds. Alberto's sitting out there smoking. 2 hours later, he's like, it's time. He makes a cast and gets like a 40-pound fish. I swear to God, the first cast. And I said, okay, this is ridiculous. The man is a genius. But I wanted to kind of bring that up only because that is one of those things to me that it was only good for a year or two. Just like the Jersey guys had that bunker bite, remember, years ago on jetties. Right. You actually tried to chase that. Right. And we never thought the funny thing is, when it's happening, nobody thinks it's ever going to end. And it ends eventually. And that is something that hasn't happened since. So your bite, the one that you usually do, is more based on resident fish that take up residence and then go off the sand. So tell me, you mentioned before that it changed over the years. How did it change?
Well, the bait changed for one. Two things. The bait changed, and the population of fish change. In other words, less fish.
Oh, that's definite.
So that's definite. So this is the theory how it goes in my head in August. So if you go in the back bays in July, what you'll find are little tiny spearing. If you go around like grass lines and you shine your light, you'll see little tiny baby spearing. So by all, through the month of July, these spearing grow and they start coming out into the surf. Now in July, in August, all of a sudden you'll see spearing in the surf of Montauk, larger spearing, right? It used to be the first moon of August, you would start seeing snappers, and it was like clockwork. The first moon of August, false bar would even be hot. I've had big fish on false bar the first moon of August, and so those resident fish that were hanging out in the rips that the boats were doing all July would now start coming in to feed off of those snappers who are basically taking cover in the surf, and that's why I would do that walk, because you find the snappers, you would find the large fish. Now, another thing is where the tides aren't like, they weren't always the same as you would in the fall. They tended to be a little bit different in August. So you kind of had to figure that out. But once you figured it out, you could get, August, I had more big fish through the years, and I've been fishing there for many years, in August than any other month I've had. August was the month. But what changed, I think, is the snappers now seem to come later. And I don't know, everybody talks about the global warming and all that, but it's not that, because water temperatures, I wait for those really friggin' hot days. I remember when I used to have those big bites, I'm like, man, when's it going to get really hot? When's it going to get really hot? Hot meaning the temperature hot, because that would drive out the snappers and that would drive out the bait. And all of a sudden you'd have snappers in the surf. And now it's almost like when it starts to cool a little, you start seeing more snappers. I don't know what it is. So, and also now in July, you're starting to see the bunker, and those fish are keyed up on those bunker, man. In the bunker, like I said before, the bunker are from the lighthouse to Browns and Kings, right in that whole area. That's where the bunker are, and they're usually outside of casting range. And you'll be like, you're out there like your Browns. Some nights you're just saying, oh my God, and you can see the boats killing them. Guys going yahoo, yahoo in the boats, and it looks like they're in casting range. But the boats always look like they're in casting range, but you can't reach the fish,
But to be fair, the Montauk bunker bite, it's really not a good bite. I don't know anyone who loves a Montauk bunker bite. It usually doesn't work out that well. Like when you have a lot of bunker in Montauk in the surf, it usually doesn't produce as much as you would think it would, like other places.
I'll say this.
I don't know why.
I'll say this. Fish July.
Well, okay.
I mean, the fish seem to be aggressive. I don't know if they're competing with the sharks for the bunker.
Right.
And not only that, if you're fishing, like if you know the bunker around and you get that little white water, the fish are going to be more aggressive, prone to hit your plug. That white water creates a disturbance, and the fish have got to decide either hit your plug or not hit your plug.
I don't know what you're talking about. White water, I never fished.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. white water medalists, right?
Listen, what's up with all the sharks? Tommy's out there.
Oh my
he's
God,
like, he's
dude.
texting me in the morning. He's like, dude, there's like 6-foot sharks just rubbing on my thigh. He's like, it freaked me out. I mean, I'm taking the sharks on bottle plugs and darters and
two things: seals and bunker. Seals and bunker. The bigger sharks, seals; smaller sharks, bunker. We have an increase in bunker. It used to be our bunker would run, we would get, and not too many people know about this bite, but we would get the first week of May. It was like from May sometimes the end of April, but usually the first week of May until like the 10th of May, there was a run of bunker, especially on the north side. If it was calm, you would see it. And you could get bigger fish. I'm not talking about 30, 40, 50-pound fish. But consistent 20-pound fish on those bunker in the beginning of May. Not too many years ago. I think that bite still is there, but it's
yeah. Years ago we used to say, or at least I used to hear when the old timers would say, "Oh no, this guy was swimming out to the Weak Fish Rock and he had a chain with a fish and something was tugging on it, and
right,
it might have been a shark." Now, literally, they are right.
They're right there.
Like you can see them. Like
they're catching them all false bar, 300-pound sharks, all false bar. In the middle of summer.
Yeah, that's insane. Like on a reef, you know what I'm saying? It's not even deep water.
But getting back to the bunker, so then you had back then we didn't have any bunker. There hardly was any bunker. We'd have that run then, and maybe you would see it in July a little bit, and if you're lucky around the fall, maybe that. But that's it. And that was it for year. I mean, some years you didn't see bunker the whole year. So maybe the beginning of May, and that was it. Now it's bunker everywhere, which is a good thing. It's not a bad thing. The more bait, the better,
Yeah, if there was more fish, it'd be better. Listen, of all the years that I fished, bunker was never the word that anybody other. It was, shads or sand eels or spearwing.
Or even sand eels. I mean, sand eels didn't come around until we started to get sand eels again, I guess 15, 16 years ago. But before that, we didn't see any in the 90s. We didn't see any sand eels up until I would say maybe 2003, 2004, 80s. There was no sand eels, and then I think before I was fishing Montauk in the 70s, they had a huge run of sand eels. So I'm told. Ruger always tells me about that. So, but I never saw that. I never would see sand eels in Montauk. It just would not happen. And then all of a sudden we started getting them, and year after year consistently. So it's nice. Except in the spring. The spring kind of we always had them, in July. It's June. It's a different run of sand eels. It's not that same.
All right. So how is your approach different now than it used to be? We already spoke about what not to do. And now let's see what to do.
Well, man, I'm confused, man. To say the truth.
So am I.
I'm a little confused. But I still love to target August because it's I love the hunt. The whole thing about for me and is about the hunt. And I love hunting in August and for those resident fish, but it is just tougher and tougher. So what's really changed is I want to target more fish in July because July, the bite has been better because you get those resident fish and they're on the bunker and they're coming in, especially in the night tides, not so much the day tides. And, but they're coming in on the moons. And it's either going to be if it happens this year, it may not even happen. It depends on the fish. It depends on a lot of things. It depends on what kind of weather we have. Do we have a nor'easter? It might push them out, or the winds may screw everything up. But if everything remains consistent, and that's the key for August and July, consistency. I don't want big, huge water. I don't want big, huge winds. I just want consistent, mellow nights. But if we do get that, you're looking at the 2 moons of August. The moons are, to me, when somebody books a trip with me, the moons are everything. Everybody wants to book around the moons, rightfully so, because that is when the bites happen. You'll see it. You'll see if it happens just this July, it's either going to be the first moon of July, which I believe is the new moon. I'm not sure when it is, like the 7th or something, or the second moon of July. And I'm praying, Zeno, that it's the second moon of July, because the first moon of July, I'll be in Alabama with my kid on a travel baseball team. So I'm like freaking out about it. I'm like, I'm going to miss this bite.
Your kids are at that age, huh?
Yeah.
Oh God! Listen. Mine is a little older than yours, so I've been through all of that.
Yeah, I know. I look on Facebook at your kids.
No, listen. They're big kids, and yours are doing great, and we have both lucky to have healthy and happy kids. That's all I'm going to say. Let them just be happy. I don't really care about anything else. But so how do you target these fish? Are you concentrating on specific tides? Are you, are you fishing them with a certain plug? Are you trying to match something? Is there some kind of a pattern, or is just
I mean, in August, yes, I would say yes. It's absolutely very, very tide oriented. Like if I take a charter out in August, if I'm going alone, I'm definitely using needles. But if I take a charter out, I'm usually I'll throw needlefish, because needlefish I can really scan the water with a lot, and I can find if I find the schoolies, I can find the bigger fish, because they'll mix in with the schoolies. Interestingly, at the end of August, towards when the fish start migrating and you start getting that white bait, the bay anchovies, because that's when the bay anchovies come, then those schoolies I find don't mix with the bigger fish. Like, you find the schoolies, the bigger fish are ready to migrate, and they're gone. So, if in the beginning of August, yes, I find the schoolies, I find the bigger fish. Now in July is a different story. July, it's the bunker bite, right? So now it's completely changed. The tide, to be honest, the tides are all fucked up. It's like you think, oh wow, I'll fish this set of rocks, which is really good in August and in the fall on the first of the flood. And then you get there and they're not there, and then they're there on a high out. And you're like, what the hell? How could this be an outgoing spot? Because there's not a lot of current there on the outgoing. There's more current on the incoming. So you would think on the incoming. But I think the fish are just, with bunker, they're pushing. They're just constantly, there's a bunker everywhere. So they're just pushing bait, pushing. And I don't think the tide, I'm not even sure if the tide matters. I'm taking logs on it. I'm still trying to figure it out, because this bite is kind of, I wouldn't say new, but it's 7 or 8 years old, kind of. So that's kind of new. You're talking 30, 40 years of logs compared to 7 or 8 years of logs. So you're figuring,
I don't even think
what
it's
I mean?
that long. I don't even think it's that long, to be honest.
Yeah, maybe not even that long.
I don't think so. I think you're talking about 3-4 years.
Yeah.
I don't think about 7-8 years. I think 7-8 years is a long time. 7-8 years, you're almost going back to the bite that we were talking about before,
right,
with Alberto.
True.
And that was, believe it or not, in his opinions, those weren't only shad, but they were porgies there on those rock piles that got unearthed. Right. So, this is a fairly new bite. So, yeah, I'm sure it would take a little time to kind of put your head together and try to see some patterns. And then again, if you just have a big schools of bait that just go from one place to another, it's kind of hard to figure out what's going to happen if it's not dependent on the time to flush them. Right.
Right. Not to get off the summer, but in June too, you mentioned porgies. The porgies, you can go for teen bass in June and follow the sand eels. Interestingly, the sand eels, they come, it's the same migration as the juvenile weakfish in the end, last moon of September, first moon of October. So the sand eels come on that moon of June. It's usually the first moon of June, last moon of May, but usually the first moon of June. And they come out of the Peconics, and they're tiny little teeny sand eels. And they start flooding the north side, and on the next moon, they go around the south side. Same pattern with the juvenile weakfish, which is one of the best bites of the year, if it happens. So why am I talking about this? I forgot, but I'm just thinking about all the bait migrations.
I love
and then the July, man, and that is what's cool to me. Watching, especially if you're fishing the back bays, you're seeing all the bait back there, and you're watching that migration of bait. You're shining your light in the water. You're saying, wow, there's whatever in here. There's, oh wow, I see juvenile weakfish in the back bays. I wonder when they're going to come out. And then, sure enough, on the moon that you thought they were supposed to come out, there they are. You know what I mean? It's that to me is really cool. Or when you see krill in the water, I freaking freak out when I see krill. I'm like, oh my God, there's krill in the water. I start bugging out. Like, oh my God, krill is so fucking what? But you know what? Guess what eats krill? Bunker. They're filter fillers. Yeah, right, and shad.
Right. Yeah.
Bunker feeds they filter 4 gallons of water per minute.
Right.
You know that? 4 gallons of water per minute.
I know. We can definitely use them considering the clarity of our water.
Right.
Well, listen, you've always been like one of those guys that really puts a lot of emphasis on seasonality and bait migration, because this is since I've known you, you start in April in the back creeks and you look at that spearing and it's the sand deals and you want to get the herring bite and the shad bite and you got the juve weak fish. And I mean, bunker is really a recent Montauk thing that doesn't really, it's a new thing that you almost have to learn. We have done the bunker bite, but we have done the bunker bite in summertime, mostly in the bridges. You know what I'm saying? The back bay of South Troy. They were never really up front,
right,
where they were Montauk and the sharks and whales were feeding on it.
Right, it's crazy, right?
I mean, this is all new for all of us. Anybody that says they know what they're doing, I mean, they might be quicker to figure it out than I am, but this is fairly new. I mean, this is not something that has been happening. So I'm not surprised that you have some kind of issues of trying to nail at least the pattern, because I don't think with this amount of bait that is that easy. But
this amount of fish too.
Yeah, that's another thing. A lot more bait than fish. That's right. Another thing. Like, they don't need to be aggressive or competing with each other because there's just not that many of them.
Right. I mean, the fishery is just, oh my God, dude. It's just
what is an epic summer night for you in Montauk? What it used to be.
Wow, an epic summer night. Well, I'll tell you this, and I think it was 96. I'm not sure of the year. It was the year with the UFO story. I know that. I think it was 96. So I had 4 fish over 40 and a bunch of 30s. 4 fish into probably the high 40s. And it's that same year. I might have had. I have never ever landed a 50 that I know of, but I think it was that year. I probably had and I didn't have a scale, and I had it on a chicken scratch bomber, but I think it was that year. It was unbelievable. That 1996, that was probably my best year, and epic. I had an epic night, with a bunch of 30s and 40s. I mean,
and you took a lot of fish in the summertime there, especially in August, since I've known you. And this is not just
that was in August. Yep.
Yeah, this is not a case of one guy trying to chase a bite that happened 15 years ago. You have done well in August.
My customer, Mark DeAngelis.
Yes, 48, I believe.
Yeah, 40. I think it was 47. Might have been 48.
Something
I don't remember. Whatever it was.
I know that
it was probably 50 before it was dead.
I know that picture with his fish over his shoulder, and you going, your fish looks so tiny,
oh my
although
God.
it was like 20 something.
Yeah, it's like 27 pounds. My fish looks like a rat. And his eyes are like bugging, but that
he's
bite.
Super skinny guy with a gigantic fish, and there you are.
Yeah. That bite was in August. I remember him saying, and he booked me 5 times that August, and he had 3 out of those 5 trips. He had fish that were unbelievable. One fish on the south side in the daytime. I remember in the website, Surf Rats Ball, he was, I posted, it's going to be good today. It was August. He's like, I'll take it. Daytime. We were catching fish one after another. I get knocked down by a wave, and I see Mark on a rock with his rod just in half. August, it was a northeast in August in the daytime, pissing rain. And, he's like, Bill, it's a big fish. It's a big fish. And I'm like, water's going in my mouth. I'm like, oh my God, So I get back up on my rock, and he's got this fish, man. And it's like, it's got to be like 15, 20 feet from us. I'm like, we're going to fucking get this fish. I see the tail, dude. This tail, I can't even, it's freaking me out thinking about it. This fucking tail was like, you talk about the broom. It was like a goddamn broom. It had to be over 60 pounds, but I don't know. I mean, I can't say it. But to me, it had to be over 60 pounds. And it right after I saw it like breached and went down, hit a rock, bang. That was it. I'm like, oh my God. That was, to this day, that was the biggest fish I've ever seen up close in the surf. I mean, it was just, I was like, oh my God, I'll never forget it. It wasn't it was his fish, but still, So I'm fucking on a bucktail. I think a ounce and a half. If I remember right, ounce and a half lime green bucktail, number 70, Uncle Josh. You know.
Of all things.
Yeah, of all things.
Yeah, I know. But you know what? It's funny because, look, you just said you like the calm water, you know, and you're going to get mostly southwest prevailing wind, I assume.
Right. Yeah.
In the summertime, you're going to have, you know how it is. In the morning, it's calm, and then in the afternoon, you get a little bit of breeze, and by nighttime, it calms down. Where in late May, early June, you love big water.
Yes. Well, not so much June, but like mid-May.
Really?
Because it's related to water temperatures. Like that day I just described in August, I like the big water because it was in the daytime, you know, and you know, I think, I don't know, I'm not a fish, but I think the fish can see more, and they're going to be a little bit more aggressive, and that rain's coming down. It's going to cool the surface a little bit more, you know. And then in May, mid-May, the water temperature is different. The water temperatures are low 50s. You know, early May, I want it calm and flat. Mid-May, you know, you want the bigger water. And the bigger water, you can concentrate on areas where that bigger water is pushing into deeper water. You know what I mean? So that's what I like to do. And one of my best days was middle of May 17th, actually. Probably my best day in Montauk ever, May 17th. I would say that was. Well,
I gotta hear about this day. What happened on May 17th?
Well, I was on the south side. I will not say where, but I was on the.
No, I don't need to know where.
I was way back on the south side, and I was fishing bucktails, and I was fishing ounce and a half, and the water temperature was, because I take a lot of water temperatures, was 51 degrees, and we had the gannets working outside of this area. You know, when you see gannets, you automatically see big bait, but the gannets were way out. So I'm casting and I'm getting tiny little hits. You know, I'm way out on a rock. I'm like, whatever, 100 yards out or whatever I was. And I'm casting ounce and a half bucktails, probably lime green with number 70 pork rind, and I'm not catching anything, but I'm getting little tiny hits, almost like they're sucking it and pulling it. You know what I mean? And I'm like, you know, I got to go a little slower because the water temperatures are still cold. Maybe if I can slow it down, but I couldn't slow it down with an ounce and a half. So I switched up to a 3/4 ounce bucktail. No, actually, I went to an ounce. And I was still getting that. I was still getting the sucks. And then I went to 3/4. And the 3/4 was the key, dude. 3/4, I was immediately into fish. And these fish, Zeno, man, there was fish I couldn't even freaking control. I mean, it was just ridiculous. And they were straightening out, you know, my 3/4 ounce bucktail hooks, which is, I don't know. What are they on the rip splitters? I don't know what they are. They 8-0s? They're probably not 8-0s. I'm not sure what they are. But they were.
I don't think they're 8-0s.
Yeah, are they 8-0s? No, they're not 8-0s, right? Yeah. But whatever they are, they're straightening them out constantly. And I had 4 or 5 fish over 40 pounds, bunch of 30s, and fish, and I kid you not, just were not even. I mean, I had my drag locked. Oh, not locked, but almost locked. And they were unstoppable. Then I would try to loosen it up because they were straightening out my bucktail hook. That wasn't working. I just couldn't stop them. They were like, I don't know, 3 to 5 fish that I could not stop. It's just incredible. You know, it was an incredible morning. You know, I didn't keep any either. So especially
in that wild water, if you get the fish that really, I mean, you get the small fish in that water. It feels like a 30. I can only imagine with a big fish. You know, I mean, no wonder we lose so many fish in that water. It's not, you're fighting against the elements too. You're not just fighting the fish.
Right. I mean, you get a 30-pound fish or even a 20-pound fish in Montauk. You know, you're like, maybe you got a 50-50 shot and get them in. You know, you got 2 treble hooks. They turn a certain way. One pops. Even if you use one treble hook and a side wash in the back, it doesn't fucking matter. I mean, the fishes are going to go where they're going to go, and they're either going to break your line or something's going to happen, or they're going to rub their nose against the rock. Or
you know that sickening feeling when you feel one hook comes off.
Oh,
you know, the one out of 2, and you're like, fuck me, where's this other hook? I just, you know, like one came off, the other one's going to come off. It just doesn't give me a lot of confidence.
Right. Pops off, you can feel that, especially on the braid. Back when in the mono days, you would never feel that.
No, I was talking to Steve Campbell And he never fished braid. He to be fair, he fished braid on a conventional, but he only fished mono on a spinet. And by the time he gave up, the braid wasn't the thing. But he was explaining the way if you fish like breezy with the spinning rod, by the time you set the hook, the amount of line you're out, you're never going to feel anything. There's so much stretch.
Right. So much stretch, especially, back in the day, we used the Andy 20. Yeah. I mean, I was a clear guy. Most guys use pink, but I was clear.
17, 20, yeah.
Yeah, even 12,
Yeah.
Fred Calafaro says, I use 12 underneath the light. I get better casts,
Yeah, well, that's true until it touches the rock. So, that was.
I tell you, when I started using braid, I was fishing shagwan, and Toad was there. And Toad was a young guy, young kid, had his blonde hair, and he's like talking to himself and doing all that, what he does.
Yeah, of course.
And he's got a monster cast to begin with, and this mother effer, man, he's got braid line, and I was like. It's kind of like the shape skis. I'm like, I'm never going to shape skis, man. I'm never going to braid. Fuck that. I don't need braid. I don't know what it is. Why wouldn't I go to braid? Why wouldn't I at least try it? But I'm hard headed. So he's in the fish at Shagwan one after another. He had like 30 bass and a bunch of blues. It was the fall. The wind was in your face, and I didn't have one fish. And he had braid at the time. I'm like, oh my God. The next day I went out and bought braid. I never looked back.
Yeah, I was I think I was in Sebastian Hill a few years ago, and it's like 2:00 in the morning. We've been fishing most of the night. I think I was with Alberto or somebody. And I'm under the bridge, and people are lining under the bridge shrimping. And I hear this voice, loud, motherfucker, loud. I'm like, I know that voice. I walk in, his Toad with his shrimping outfit. I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. I mean, you can hear him a mile away. I love him. He's great. Listen, as far as this summer bite, like what plugs are we using to target these fish?
I love, Super Strike. I mean, that's what I'm mainly, you know what I mean? And the rocks and everything. I'm using a lot of darters, colors. I'm always partial to the black and gold, but I'm using a lot of Super Strike darters. I'll use big metal lips sometimes.
And this is, I assume, because of the profile of bunker?
Right.
Okay.
And you know what I'm getting into lately? Well, not lately. God damn, is everything's going so fast.
Yeah, I know.
I know. Lately, last 4 or 5 years.
Yeah, I hear that.
Last 4 or 5 years as opposed to the last 40 years.
Yeah, you say like, you remember that we did that like 10 years ago.
Right. It's not. I guess it's not that lately, but the Sabile shads.
Yes.
Oh my God, those things are friggin' dynamite. The only problem I find is I drop a lot of fish with them.
Well, that's true too.
I've done different hook arrangements, this and that, but I do drop a lot of fish with them. But I tell you what, they do catch a lot of fish, especially when those bigger baits are around. I use a lot of those. I
had an incredible night at the Falls North Bar about 3, 4, 5 years ago with Lenny. We came off the lighthouse. Actually, that kid Ben. I don't know. Yes, he had a 50 something under the light that day. Actually, he was right next to me and Lenny, and he had a 50 something. I had an issue with equipment. Let's call it equipment issue. I broke a rod, a bunch of other stuff, and we ended up going to Falls Bar, and it was a hard northeaster, so it was very difficult to fish on the incoming. So I went towards the North Bar, and I started casting this thing like with the wind into Shagwan. Man. I mean, the size of fish like that, I haven't seen in years. Every fish was 30 pounds.
Wow, that's
every
awesome,
single fish. It lasted for about an hour, and they wanted to. And I was actually throwing those gigantic 9-inch shads because, with a nor'easter, all you got to do is put them on a wind and let the wind take them into Clark's Cove. I mean, that was really like, I was the only guy there. Lenny and I were the only guys.
Those were the Sabiles?
Yeah, that was a Sabiles.
Yeah.
I got most of them on a small stuff. I love them. I love them in Mexico. I love them in a lot of places. But I don't see a lot of guys using them. Now, you also used a lot of eels in the previous years. Does this bunker kind of change this?
Yeah,
and sharks?
on the bunker bite, I don't fish the eels. I fish strictly plugs. Come August, I'm strictly eeling. Well, my customers are strictly eeling.
Right.
I'll use plugs then just to scout around an area, but during those bunker bites, there's no point in using eels. They'll just get chopped up. The sharks will eat them, and the fish are aggressive. They're on the plugs, man. Once they're there, they're on the plugs. They'll hit them. They're more prone. And a bunker bite, I find that they're more, people will say, oh, yeah, they'll always hit eel. No, they will not always hit eel. I have been on many bites, snapper bites, that they wouldn't even touch the eel. All they wanted was a profile of a snapper. You know what I mean? A few years ago, we had a night like that out of Caswell's. I had my charter casting eels. I'm like, just stick with the eels. You got more of a chance. Bang! I have a 25, a 30. I'm like, okay, switch to a darter. and then we have all the fish on the darter.
I don't know if did Ray ever tell you about the night on Cuttyhunk when him and I spent the whole night on the same rock, and I had like 6 fish over 40, and he never had a bump.
Oh.
On the same rock.
Did. He told me a lot of things.
On the same rock, he refused to use an eel. I was using rigged eels, and I was just hammering fish. It wasn't like every cast. It was like fish every 20 minutes. We were there for like 6 hours. We were there the whole time.
Right.
And Ray that year, he refused to use eels. He's a big eel guy. And that year, he wanted to do fish on a plug, and they wouldn't touch it, and for whatever reason. Listen, what about the summertime? Like in the summertime, do you kind of give up on fishing in daytime? Doesn't matter where that is, be that South Shore.
No. I mean, I've had albacore in the daytime there. You know what I mean? So like, I do my trophy trips in July and August, primarily August, but now July as well. My dogs are freaking out over here.
By the way, for you guys that don't know, I'm going to do a shameless plug in here because Bill's talking about his logs and stuff like that. I mean, if you guys go to surfratsballs.com, you're going to find that you can read all Bill's logs going back like 20 years. He's got shit there for years and years. He puts every time he goes out, he puts a report out for his members on the site. And it's a really good website too for people to just, information, chit-chatting. Bill's always on it. So it's surfratsballs.com. And like I said, Bill's got all his reports, and you can literally go and read all his insane reports in August from like 10 years ago when he used to be like, I see spearing, I see krill, there's going to be a lot of fish. And shit, it was. The night afterwards, it was just insane. But go ahead. I'm sorry.
What were we talking about?
I don't know.
The tournament's coming up too. Don't forget that. We got the Surf Basketball tournament, which is right. And Bill also first prize.
Right, and Bill also runs a Surf Rats tournament, which is $1,000 first prize, and it's usually catch and release for most guys, and it's one of the largest tournaments. And it goes on for the whole June. So, and it's every year.
Kids who
and all the proceeds, right? That's right. Yeah,
that's why we do it. I mean,
I hear you. I mean, nobody wants to do a tournament for any other reason, but that is really one tournament that we all take part of it, and we're proud to help out in any way we can, and it raises a lot of money. And then Bill throws a gigantic party usually at Sag Harbor over there. And there's barbecue and all other kind of shit. So
this year we're going to do it at Capture. You better be there, man.
Okay, that's fine. Capture works fine.
You better be there.
Closer to me. I'm in. I need some social contact. I need to hug someone, honestly.
Oh, my God. I'm telling you, man.
I need to hug someone.
I'm so sick of these masks.
Listen, dude, I wore a mask for 30 years. I'm an insulator. All right. So I wear a mask every day. The thing is that I was the only guy on a job site that wore a mask for 30 years. Now everybody wears a mask. I don't even know who's who anymore. I go to work the other day, and the guy says, talk to John. He's a plumber's foreman. You got to do some pipe for him. So I go there. I said, who's John? The guy raises his hand. And he's like, I got 2 bathrooms done over there. I didn't test this. I'll call you later when I test this. I said, I start on those bathrooms. I finish those bathrooms. I come back, they're having coffee. I'm like, I got to talk to John. I have no fucking idea who John is. You all have masks on. I can't tell who's who anymore.
I see people I know. They come in with a mask. I'm like, who are you?
So tired of this shit. I mean, listen.
I see people fishing by themselves in the middle of nowhere with a mask on. Like, wow, dude, what are you doing?
If you see If you see Guy in Montauk on a rock in a wetsuit with a mask,
I
want you to take a picture. I want you to take a picture. That's got to be a cover shot for Surfcasters Journal.
I don't think
That's
that's
gotta
going to
be.
happen.
So, what are you doing in the summertime? Are you just chasing albies around? Is there
No,
any?
well, if it's in the daytime, I've had, especially late summer. I mean, most people don't realize this, but the migration usually starts in late summer. The migration of striped bass usually starts in late August, and everybody's like, "Oh, it's September, October." Nah, it really starts late August. That's when we start to see the white bait, and that's the primary blitz bait of the fall. So, and then you start seeing the more aggressive schoolies coming in, and you actually start seeing blitzes, especially in the mornings, early mornings, sometimes in the evenings. So when I take people out, if it's not a trophy trip, we'll book the usual hours. We'll do 6 to midnight, 6 to 11, and we'll go at dusk. Sometimes we'll walk on the south side. Sometimes we'll even be on the north side, and we'll get into a mini blitz. I'm like, oh, it's August. I think last year we got into a couple August blitzes. If you look in the log, I'm pretty sure that was August. I'm like, he's like, oh, I can't believe it. I'm like, yeah. But then at night, it's just shut down. It was like almost like the fall. Like we're into these white bait, and we had fish all over the place. The fish were at our feet, and then at night, boom, it's gone. We couldn't find anything.
I will admit that I personally, I hate your reports. Late August, I'm at work, and it's like, oh, the white bait's here. No one's here. We have 40 bass each. Now, I know they're not big, but I know that you're also the only guy there. Maybe you, Ruger, Musso, and Vito, and a few other guys, because, most of the guys take vacations later in the fall. And
yeah.
You get the benefit of actually finding out when the white bait shows up, which is kind of neat. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Which is kind of neat.
And interesting.
Yeah,
I love to find out when that white bait is showing up. I mean, the white bait is there. Like most people will see it in the daytime, but if you're looking at night, just look for the red. If you see like it looks almost like red spearing when you shine light on it, that's the white bait. You'll see it in large schools. It's like reddish in color. And that's the white bait.
I watched you last night driving from Montauk and recording yourself on Instagram because you're trying to stay awake. Now, you tell me what puts you in a mood when you go fishing. I want to hear what the playlist is.
Oh, well, the playlist. It's the Pink Floyd, man. Last night I played. I think it was Dark Side of the Moon, or the Pink Floyd live album, or Wish You Were Here. It's usually Pink Floyd, but once in a while I'll put on like Guns N' Roses when I'm really need an extra boost, something like that. I'm like,
Still no Billy Joel?
Oh man, you got to mention that, Tom. What the fuck's wrong with you, man?
Sorry, man. I didn't.
I've walked out of places when my wife's like, "Oh, Billy, why don't you just make peace with Billy Joel? Make peace with him." I know it's superstition. I know all that, but I have tried, and when I have tried, I catch nothing. So.
But that only happens if you hear the song. That doesn't happen if we actually talk about it, right? I mean, it's not.
No, I just try to avoid it altogether.
No, okay. Any other superstitions that we should know about?
I have certain parking spots I like to park in.
Okay. No, I listen.
Like on the south side, I mean, I know it's bullshit. I know it's crazy.
I don't care.
No, it's crazy. No, I know. I'm like, it's insane. It means nothing.
Bullshit.
Lucky hats. When I got my new hat on right now. This is.
I see that.
Pretty new.
He's got a brand new Montauk hat. It hasn't been ripped yet.
Second year.
Yeah.
But
okay.
Like when I need. Here we go.
Oh, he's got the fancy hat.
When I need it, I got my hat, baby.
Show me the hat that's got like nothing left.
I got two of those hats, and when I really need it, that one's the original, and then I got the next one. When I really, if it's bad, I gotta wear it. I'm wearing the fucking hat tonight. Or if I'm doing a lecture, and I need the extra boost, if I'm feeling a little, nervous or whatever, I just put on the hat. I'm like a new man. It's weird.
A lot of times you go right from work to Montauk, you fish all night, and you drive back home.
It's a grind.
Like, how do you stay up? What's your trick? I mean, what tricks do you use? I know what I used to use. Head out of the window, crazy music.
Honestly, it's the fish that drives me.
Yeah, but what when you go home though? I mean,
Yeah, well, when you
you
go home,
wasted by that time.
that Instagram thing is really a good thing for me. I turn on the radio. I try to find talk radio because on the way home, if I put on music, I'll just fall. It's not good.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I start to sing and then I start to sleep.
Right. I put on any talk radio I can find. If it's politics, if it's whatever, it doesn't even matter. And then the Instagram thing. And dude, I'm the king of 5-minute naps. Pull over. I'll pull. You know where I pull over a lot? The Starbucks in the Hamptons.
Okay.
I pull over there. I'm like, I just got to make it to the Starbucks. If I can make it to the Starbucks, I'll just pull over there. I make it there. And I'll pass out, and 5 or 10 minutes later, I'm a new man. And then I got to make it to the rest stop, that little side over the canal. I'll make it to there. I'm like, oh, okay. I got to pull over again in 5 minutes, and I'm home by then, So it's 5 minutes here, 5 minutes, even in the daytime, if I'm driving around, I'm at work or something. If I just pull over all I need is 5 minutes. 5 minutes here, 5 minutes there. It's amazing how when you're in the thick of things, especially in the fall when I'm doing all the doubles, and I mean I'm still doing it somehow, but it's the 5-10 minute power nap, Seno. That's what it is.
Last time I interviewed you, I think you said at 50 you want to be retired.
And that's what I thought. That's what I thought. I'm like, at 50, I'm going to be. There's no way I can do shit
never
after 50.
stop. You will never stop.
And now I feel like I just cannot. I love it too much. I mean, I love taking people. I love taking people out. To take like a guy out, and it's his first time in Montauk, and you get him out to the Rock, and I'll tell him, I'll go, just tell me if you're uncomfortable. It's like 12 o'clock at night. He's like, Bill, I'm uncomfortable. But then he books you again. The next time he's a little bit more comfortable. The next time he's a little bit more comfortable. And pretty soon he's a fucking animal. And you're like, you can't even keep up with him yourself. You know what I mean? It's crazy. He spent like $1 million. He's got the Von Style. He's got the Lama glass. He's got the wetsuit now. He's got everything. I'm like, holy shit, man. What did I create? It's awesome. I love it. I've been doing it for, how long have I been doing it now? 23, 24 years?
I don't know, man, but that feeling when you get washed off the rock and you're trying to get back on it because the next set is coming, there's nothing in the world like it. There is nothing in the world like it.
It can get scary at times.
And you don't even have to be in 20 feet of water. You're literally in a knee-deep water.
Yeah, knee-deep water.
When the water comes, it's around your waist, around your chin. So that feeling is, I feel so helpless sometimes tumbling that when I get up, I'm like, I'm too old for this shit. And then yet I go back on it.
I had one day I was, there's more than one day, but one day I can remember I was fishing in nor'easter. So, northeast, it was blowing like 50 knots northeast. And we're on the north side. You would think easy fishing, north side, like North Bar, False Bar, even though it's 50 knots, easy fishing. But you do a 6 hour, and then it was like 5 to 11 a.m. And then I did the next charter because the fishing at night was going to suck. So I did the next charter right afterwards with like a 15-minute break. And that's just constant in the wind. Rain feeling like it's friggin' needles. Boom, you're casting. You're using all your muscles. Probably I didn't drink enough water. And I remember I fell. And but I was not in deep water at all. But all it would have took is a wave to sweep me out. And I couldn't get up. I literally could not get up. And my guy's like, do you need help? And it was the only time I can remember. Well, 1 or 2 times. I'm like, yes, I need help. And he came over and he helped me up. That was a rude awakening to like the age. That was probably 10 years ago.
It's probably you being dehydrated more than anything else.
Right, dehydrated, just pushing yourself to limits. I mean, it's just complete. I mean, you see me out there, you feel like you're on a drug. If you're fishing a lot, you feel like you are on drugs. And sometimes you see people that and you say, like I'll see you, Zeno. I'll say, hey, Steve, what's going on? You're like, what the fuck is this guy talking about? You know what I mean? It's like, I've done that. I saw Steve Musso once, and I called him something else. I called him another name. I was in Village Pizza. I'm like, well, Steve, and I'm like, I know Steve for years. And I'm like, oh, hey, I don't know what I called him. He's like, what? I just was completely spacing out.
When you're working over there, we don't take nothing personal. Actually, in Montauk, I've seen people more fried than you are. Although you're pretty tired when I see you. I mean, you work hard. That's why we call you the hardest working guy in business. I mean, you work your ass off when you're out there for your customer. I mean, I don't know what other people do, but hey, listen, I booked Bill Wetzel years and years ago with a wetsuit. I believe I was the first guy.
I got to post a picture of that if I can find it. Did I send you a picture ever?
I think I have it somewhere. Bill, I think I might be the first guy that Bill took out in a wetsuit. Actually, I wasn't really that familiar with Montauk. I lived in the South Side, and Bill got me into needlefish and got me well acquainted with the place and understanding a lot of things that I didn't. So, if any of you is ever in need of any instructions, I would definitely recommend that you reach out to him. Listen, Bill, thank you for your time.
Thank you, man.
We're going to do this again. You know that.
Yeah,
But tonight was just fun. Bill's got the marker's mark over there. I got my own creation, little concoction here. And we're just having a good time.
Yeah, thank you very much. And Zeno, I got to say, man, I mean, you have done so much for the Surfcast. I'm not kissing your ass or anything, but you have done so fucking much for the surfcasting community. With the Surfcasters Journal, it's an unbelievable magazine. It's just, we never had anything like that. You know what I mean? And, you're coming from a different country and you do all these things. It's just remarkable. It's really, and, we all thank you. I mean, there's it's fine. I mean, thank you and Tommy. Thank you and Tommy.
Yes.
Tommy's the man. Even though Nicole, I give him a shit about getting my advertising together, but Tommy is the man.
Tommy, for all those of you that don't listen to, he did the first few podcasts. Tommy designs the Surfcasters Journal and all the gear and shirts, and he's a co-founder and he's a co-owner, and he's hugely important to this publication, and he's one of the driving forces behind it. And I'm just glad that I can find these ideas that I can make this sport even more accessible to people by being able to talk to guys like you and others where, maybe it's more of a less formal thing that we can do in a magazine where you're always trying to tell some kind of a story. I like to listen to people more than things. And this kind of an outlet, to me, really works out well. You know what I'm saying?
Right. And you got a list of great writers too. They're great writers.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Everybody has done a great job, and it's for the sport that we love. It's easy. Right. It's really not. If I had to do this for like boats, you couldn't pay me enough. No, I'm not against the boats. I just couldn't do it.
I'm against boats.
Boats are for sissy. Right?
I'm against boats. Boats are for sissies.
Doesn't your shirt say
I say,
boats are
can't
for
fucking
sissies.
catch a fish in a boat. You shouldn't even be on the water. I mean, come on.